Rain hammers the windows of Claire Bennett's Seattle apartment, each drop a cold accusation against the glass. She stands frozen in the dim glow of a single lamp, clutching her phone, her knuckles white. Tears carve silent paths down her cheeks as the wails of her newborn triplets, James, Lily, and Noah, pierce the air from the next room. "Ethan." "Where are you?" she whispers, her voice cracking like brittle ice. "Why did you leave us?" Alone. The camera pans to a torn wedding photo on the coffee table, Claire's smile ripped apart from Ethan's smug grin. A jagged edge of the frame catches the light, glinting like a blade. Suddenly, headlights flash across the room. Claire's breath catches. She rushes to the window, peering through the rain-streaked glass. A car speeds away into the night, its taillights fading like dying embers. "Ethan," she screams, but the street is empty, swallowing her cry. The phone slips from her hand, landing on the hardwood with a dull thud. A sharp cut to Ethan Caldwell gripping the wheel of his car, the Seattle skyline blurring behind him. Rain pelts the windshield, but his eyes are dry, cold, unyielding. His phone buzzes on the passenger seat. Claire's name lights up the screen. He doesn't flinch, doesn't reach for it. Instead, he smirks, a shadow of something cruel twisting his lips. "You're better off without me, Claire." He mutters, his voice low, venomous. "You all are." Back in the apartment, the doorbell rings, sharp and insistent. Claire freezes, heart pounding. "Ethan, is that you?" she calls, her voice trembling with hope and dread. She stumbles to the door, the baby's cries growing louder, a chorus of desperation. As her hand reaches for the knob, a voice cuts through the storm, calm, familiar, but heavy with warning. It's Nathan Harper, Ethan's best friend. Claire opened the door. "There's something you need to know. About Ethan. A secret that changes everything." The camera zooms in on Claire's wide, terrified eyes, then cuts to black, leaving only the sound of rain and a single unanswered question. What has Ethan done? The Seattle sun dips low, painting the Puget Sound in hues of amber and crimson. Claire Bennett stands on her balcony, the breeze tugging at her dark hair as she cradles her barely there baby bump. Her eyes sparkle with a quiet joy, the kind that feels like a secret only she and the world share. At 28, she's a rising star at Pacific Trust Bank, her days filled with spreadsheets and client meetings, but tonight her heart is full of something softer. She turns back into the sleek apartment she shares with Ethan Caldwell, her husband of 6 months, where the scent of fresh paint and new beginnings lingers. "This is it," she murmurs, her fingers tracing the edge of a framed photo from their courthouse wedding. Ethan's arm slung around her, both of them laughing under a cherry blossom tree. Our forever starts now. Arts. Inside, Ethan sprawls on the couch, his tie loosened, a glass of bourbon in hand. He's all charm and sharp edges, a marketing exec with a smile that could sell sand in a desert. "Hey, gorgeous." He calls, his voice warm but carrying a hint of distraction. "You gonna stand out there all night or come tell me about your day?" Claire laughs, crossing the room to perch on the armrest. "My day. Same old. But Dr. Larson called. The ultrasound's scheduled for tomorrow. You're coming, right?" Ethan's eyes flicker just for a moment to his phone buzzing on the coffee table. "Wouldn't miss it," he says, leaning up to kiss her cheek, though his gaze drifts back to the screen. Claire doesn't notice, too caught up in the dream of their future. A family, a home, a life built brick by brick. The next morning, Harborview Medical Center hums with quiet efficiency. Claire lies on the exam table, the cool gel on her stomach making her giggle nervously. Ethan stands beside her, his hand resting lightly on hers, though his fingers tap an impatient rhythm. Dr. Emily Larson, a kind-faced woman with wire-rimmed glasses, moves the ultrasound wand, her brow furrowing slightly. "Well, Claire, everything looks good. The baby's heartbeat is strong, right on track for 12 weeks. Claire beams, squeezing Ethan's hand. "Hear that? Our little one's already a fighter." Ethan nods, his smile tight, and mutters, "Yeah, amazing." Dr. Larson pauses, tilting her head. "Hang on." The gestational age suggests you're progressing well, but let's double-check the images next week. Claire barely registers the technical jargon, her heart soaring at the grainy image on the screen. A tiny pulse, a promise of life. Days bleed into weeks, and Claire throws herself into preparing for the baby. On a crisp Saturday, she and Ethan wander through Pike Place Market, the air thick with the scent of fresh flowers and roasted coffee. They weave past stalls, Claire clutching a tiny pair of baby booties, her laughter ringing out as Ethan teases her about buying the whole store. "We need to be practical, Claire," he says, though. His grin softens the words. She nudges him playfully. "Practical," says the guy who bought a sports car last month. Ethan chuckles, but his phone buzzes again and he steps away to take the call, his voice low-guarded. "Just work," he says when he returns, but Claire's smile falters a tiny crack in her certainty. She shakes it off, focusing on the booties, the crib they'll pick out, the nursery they'll paint in soft blues and yellows. Back at the apartment, Claire sits cross-legged on the floor, surrounded by parenting books and fabric swatches. Ethan lounges nearby, scrolling through his phone, his responses to her chatter growing shorter. "What about this crib?" she asks, holding up a catalog. "It's got great safety ratings." He glances over, barely looking. "Sure, whatever you think's best." Claire hesitates, her excitement dimming. "Ethan, you okay? You've been distant." He sets his phone down, running a hand through his hair. "Just stress, babe. Big campaign at work. I'm here, aren't I?" He pulls her close and she melts into his embrace, ignoring the unease gnawing at her. As the weeks pass, Ethan's late nights at the office pile up his phone, a constant hum of notifications. Claire buries her doubts, chalking it up to his ambition, their shared dream of a secure future. She plans a quiet dinner to celebrate their 6-month anniversary, setting the table with candles and his favorite pasta. When Ethan walks in, he's distracted, his tie askew. "Smells good," he says, but his eyes are on his phone again. "Who's texting you so late?" Claire asks, half joking, half curious. Ethan's jaw tightens, but he flashes a smile. "Just a client. Let's eat, huh?" She nods, swallowing her questions, clinging to the warmth of his presence. In the quiet of their bedroom that night, Claire lies awake, Ethan's steady breathing beside her. The city lights filter through the blinds, casting stripes across the ceiling. She places a hand on her growing belly, whispering to the life inside. "We're gonna be okay, little one. Your daddy's just busy, but he loves us." Outside, Seattle pulses with life cars, humming distant laughter from a bar, the faint wail of a siren. Claire closes her eyes, unaware of the storm gathering on the horizon, a betrayal that will shatter her world and force her to rebuild from the ashes. The Seattle skyline glitters through the floor-to-ceiling windows of a chic Belltown restaurant, where laughter and clinking glasses fill the air. Claire Bennett, radiant at 30 weeks pregnant, sits at the center of a baby shower thrown by her best friend Sophie Miller. Her navy dress hugs her swollen belly, and a soft glow lights her face as she unwraps a tiny onesie, the crowd cooing. "Sophie, you outdid yourself," Claire says, her voice bright, though a faint ache tugs at her Ethan's absence. He'd promised to stop by after a meeting, but his chair remains empty. Sophie leans in, squeezing her hand. "He'll show Claire. You know how work keeps him." Claire nods, forcing a smile, but her eyes drift to her phone. No texts, no calls. As the party hums, Claire feels a sharp twinge in her abdomen. She brushes it off, blaming the sparkling cider, but another wave hits fiercer, stealing her breath. "Ouch!" She gasps, gripping the table. The chatter fades, heads turning. Sophie's at her side in an instant. "Claire, you okay? What's happening?" Claire's face pales, her voice trembling. "It's contractions. They're strong. I need the hospital." Panic ripples through the room. Sophie grabs her purse, barking orders. "Someone call Ethan. I'm taking her to Harborview now." Claire clutches Sophie's arm, pain crashing through her, her heart racing with fear for the baby she's carried for only 28 weeks. The drive to Harborview Medical Center is a blur of rain-slicked streets, and Sophie's reassuring voice. "Hang in there, Claire. You're tough as nails." Claire nods, but her mind spirals. Where's Ethan? Why isn't he answering? At the hospital, nurses whisk her into a sterile room. the beeping of monitors a stark contrast to the party's warmth. Dr. Emily Larson rushes in, her calm demeanor grounding Claire. "Claire, you're in preterm labor. We're doing everything to keep you and the baby safe." Claire's eyes widen. "Baby, you mean just one, right?" Dr. Larson hesitates, glancing at the ultrasound screen. "Let's focus on getting you stable. We'll know more soon." Hours crawl by, each contraction a battle. Ethan finally bursts through the door, his suit-rumpled eyes wild. "Claire, I'm here." "I'm so sorry my phone died," and she cuts him off, her voice sharp through the pain. "You're here now. Just stay." He nods, taking her hand, but his grip feels distant, his gaze darting to the monitors. Dr. Larson returns, her face serious. "Claire, you're delivering tonight, and it's not just one baby. You're having triplets." Claire's breath catches shock, mingling with fear. "Triplets, but the ultrasounds." Ethan's hand slackens, his face draining of color. "3, he mutters almost to himself. Dr. Larson explains, sometimes with preterm babies they can hide on scans. You're rare, 1 in a million. The delivery room is a whirlwind of controlled chaos. Claire pushes through exhaustion, Ethan at her side, his encouragement hollow. First comes James, tiny but fierce, his cry piercing the air. Then Lily, delicate, her wails softer. Finally, Noah the smallest, his arrival met with a tense silence before he lets out a weak sob. Claire weeps, overwhelmed, as the nurses rush the babies to the neonatal intensive care unit. They're fighters, Claire, Dr. Larson says, her voice steady, but they'll need time in the NICU. Ethan stares at the empty bassinets, his expression unreadable. 3 kids, he whispers, and Claire misses the flicker of dread in his eyes. Days later, Claire sits by the NICU incubators, her heart tethered to the tiny forms of James, Lily, and Noah. Ethan's visits grow sporadic, his excuses piling up: client dinners, late-night pitches. One evening alone in their apartment, Claire rocks a fussy Lily, while James and Noah sleep fitfully. The fridge is nearly empty, the bills unpaid. She checks their joint bank account, expecting a cushion from Ethan's bonuses. Instead, the screen shows a balance of 0. Her stomach drops. Transaction history reveals withdrawals, thousands of dollars siphoned out by Ethan over weeks. No, she gasps, scrolling frantically. A final transfer dated yesterday empties the account completely. Her hands shake as she dials Ethan, only to hear his voicemail. "Ethan, what have you done? We have nothing left. Call me back." The next morning, a text from Ethan arrives, cold and final. "I'm sorry, Claire, I can't do this. You're better off without me." She stares at the screen, the words blurring through tears. The triplets' cries rise, a chorus of need, and Claire feels the walls closing in. She dials Sophie, her voice breaking. "He's gone." "Sophie, he took everything. The money, our future. I'm alone with 3 babies." Sophie arrives within the hour, arms full of diapers and formula. "You're not alone," she says fiercely. "We'll figure this out." As Claire navigates the haze of single motherhood, Nathan Harper steps into the void Ethan left. He shows up at her apartment with a bag of groceries, his quiet kindness a lifeline. "Thought you might need these," he says, setting down milk and bread. Claire, bleary-eyed, manages a weak smile. "Nathan, you don't have to." He cuts her off gently. "I want to. Those kids need you strong." Over coffee as the babies nap, Nathan hesitates, then speaks. "Claire, there's something you should know about Ethan. Back when you met at that bar in Capitol Hill, he made a BT with me, $1,000 to win you over first. I didn't take it, I couldn't. I liked you too much even then." Claire's breath hitches betrayal, cutting deeper. "A bet he played me." Nathan nods, his eyes full of regret. "I should have told you sooner. I'm sorry." The revelation shatters Claire's last illusions about Ethan. She stares out at the Seattle rain, the city's pulse, mocking her broken dreams. But Nathan's presence, steady and unyielding, sparks a faint hope. She wipes her tears, cradling Noah against her chest. "I don't know how to do this alone," she admits. Nathan meets her gaze, his voice firm. "You're not alone, Claire. I'm here. For you, for them." Outside, the rain slows, and a sliver of sunlight breaks through the clouds, fragile but persistent, like the strength Claire is only beginning to discover within herself. 10 years have passed, and Seattle's skyline gleams under a crisp autumn sun. Claire Bennett strides through the glass doors of her downtown office, a corner suite at Pacific Trust Bank, where she's now a senior financial advisor. Her tailored blazer and confident smile mask the scars of a decade spent rebuilding from Ethan Caldwell's betrayal. At 38, she's a force, sharp, resilient, a single mother who turned pain into power. Her desk holds a photo of James, Lily, and Noah, now 10, their gap-toothed grins, a daily reminder of why she fought. But today the past crashes into her present like a rogue wave. Claire's assistant buzzes her intercom. "Ms. Bennett, a walk-in client insists on seeing you. Says it's personal." Claire frowns, her schedule packed, but curiosity wins. "Send them in." The door swings open, and there he is, Ethan Caldwell, a ghost from her nightmares. His once charming face, his haggard eyes, bloodshot, reeking of stale whiskey. His cheap suit hangs loose, a far cry from the polished man she married. "Claire." He starts, his voice rough, almost pleading. She freezes, her heart pounding, but her voice is steel. "What do you want, Ethan? You have no right to be here." He slumps into a chair, uninvited, rubbing his stubbled jaw. "I know I messed up, okay? I need help. I'm broke, Claire. Debts piling up, nowhere to go." Her laugh is sharp, bitter. "You think you can waltz in after 10 years after stealing our money, abandoning our kids, and ask for a handout? You're delusional." Ethan's eyes narrow, a flicker of the old cunning returning. "I didn't want to do this, but you leave me no choice. I know things, Claire. Things about you, about Nathan. Things that could ruin your perfect little life." Her stomach twists, but she leans forward, unflinching. "What things?" Ethan spit it out. He smirks, leaning back. "That bet back at the Capitol Hill bar. It wasn't just me and Nathan. There were others guys who saw you, wanted you. I won you, didn't I? But I could tell the world how your precious Nathan was in on it. How he's been lying to you all these years. And that's not all. You think I was faithful back then? There were others, Claire. Women you never knew about. I could spill it all, your kids, your clients, they'd eat it up." Claire's hands clench, rage and humiliation boiling inside her. "You're a liar," she snaps, but doubt creeps in, a poison seeping through her resolve. "Prove it or get out." Ethan pulls out his phone, scrolling to a grainy photo, a younger him with a woman Claire doesn't recognize, time-stamped during their marriage. Then another and another. "These are just the start," he says, his voice low, taunting. "Give me 10 grand, and I keep quiet. Don't, and I'll make sure everyone in Seattle knows what a fool you were." Claire's vision blurs, not with tears, but with fury. "You think you can blackmail me? You're pathetic." Ethan stands, leaning close, his breath sour. 10 grand, Claire. Or I go to the press, to your kid's school, to Nathan. You've got until tomorrow." He walks out, leaving her trembling, the weight of his threats crushing her carefully built world. That evening, in the cozy Queen Anne home, she shares with Nathan Harper and the Triplets. Claire paces the living room, the kids' laughter from the backyard a stark contrast to her turmoil. Nathan, now her fiancé, notices her tension. "Claire, what's wrong? You've been quiet all night." She hesitates, then spills everything: Ethan's return, the blackmail, the photos, the women. Nathan's face darkens, but he takes her hands. "He's lying about me, Claire. I never took that bet. I loved you from the start, but I should have warned you about him sooner. I'm sorry." Claire pulls away, her voice shaking. "Why didn't you tell me all these years, Nathan, and you let me think?" He steps closer, desperate. "I was ashamed. I didn't want to hurt you more." The next morning, Ethan's audacity escalates. He shows up at their house while Claire's at work, confronting Nathan in the driveway. "Well, well," my old friend Ethan sneers, leaning against his beat-up car. "Living the dream with my wife. Huh, I want 10 grand by tonight. or I tell Claire you were just as bad as me." Nathan's fists clench, but he keeps his voice steady. "You're a coward, Ethan. You ran from your family and now you're scraping for scraps. Get out before I call the cops." Ethan laughs cold and hollow. "You think you're better than me? We both wanted her. I just got her first. Pay up or she's done." He drives off, leaving Nathan shaken, guilt and fear warring in his chest. Nathan, desperate to protect Claire, withdraws $10,000 from their joint account, intending to pay Ethan to vanish. But Claire's phone pings with a bank alert, a $10,000 debit. Her heart sinks. She calls Nathan, her voice tight. "Why did you take $10,000 without telling me? Is this about Ethan?" Nathan stammers, caught. "Claire, he's threatening us. I thought I could make him go away. I'm sorry." Claire's anger flares, but beneath it a spark of clarity ignites. No more hiding Nathan. No more letting him control us. "We're ending this." Claire storms to her office, pulling every string she's earned in a decade of grit. She calls her lawyer, a sharp woman named Rachel Torres, and lays out Ethan's threats, the photos, the blackmail. "He's been dodging child support for 10 years, Rachel. And now this. I want him gone." Rachel nods, her pen flying. "Extortion's a felony, Claire. With your evidence, those texts, the bank records, his history of alimony evasion, we've got him. Let's take this to the police." Claire's eyes blaze with resolve. "Do it. I'm done being his victim." As she hangs up, the Seattle skyline looms outside, a silent witness to her transformation. Ethan thinks he's cornered her, but Claire's ready to fight, not just for herself, but for her children, for Nathan, for the life she's clawed back from the ashes of his betrayal. Claire Bennett sits at her polished desk, the Seattle skyline a stark backdrop through the window. Her hands are steady as she organizes a stack of evidence: Ethan Caldwell's threatening texts, bank records, showing his theft, and a decade's worth of dodged child support payments. Across from her, Rachel Torres, her lawyer, reviews the documents with a predator's focus. "This is airtight," Claire Rachel says, her voice crisp. "Extortion fraud, alimony evasion." Ethan's dug his own grave. Claire nods, her jaw tight. "I want him to face everything he's done. No more running." Rachel's eyes meet hers, a spark of respect passing between them. "Consider it done. I'm filing with the Seattle PD today." By afternoon, Claire and Nathan Harper meet with Detective Mark Reyes at the Seattle Police Department's downtown precinct. The air smells of coffee and ink, the hum of officers a steady pulse. Claire lays out Ethan's blackmail scheme, her voice unwavering. He demanded $10,000 to stay quiet about a bet from years ago. He's been lying, manipulating, and now he's threatening my family. Nathan adds, his tone heavy with guilt. "I almost paid him thinking it'd protect Claire. But she's right, he needs to answer for this." Detective Reyes, a grizzled man with sharp eyes, takes notes. "We've got enough here for an arrest warrant. If he's in Seattle, we'll find him." Claire's shoulders ease slightly, but her resolve holds. "He's at a bar in Pioneer Square most nights. The Rusty Anchor. You'll find him there." That evening, the Rusty Anchor buzzes with low chatter, and the clink of glasses, its dim lights casting shadows over worn wooden tables. Ethan slouches at the bar, nursing a cheap beer, his eyes darting nervously. He thinks he's untouchable, that Claire will cave. But outside, 2 unmarked police cars pull up, their lights off. Detective Reyes steps out, badge in hand, flanked by officers. Inside, Ethan doesn't see them until Reyes's voice cuts through the noise. "Ethan Caldwell, you're under arrest for extortion and evasion of court-ordered child support." Ethan's glass slips shattering on the floor. "What? This is a mistake." He sputters, but the cuffs snap on, cold and final. The bar goes quiet, patrons staring as Ethan's dragged out, his bravado crumbling. "Claire set me up, she's lying," he shouts, but the door slams shut behind him. News of Ethan's arrest spreads like wildfire. The Seattle Times runs a story: local man charged in blackmail scheme, painting Claire as a resilient mother who fought back. Social media buzzes local moms groups, praising her courage. Claire reads the headlines on her phone, sitting in the Queen Anne home she shares with Nathan and the Triplets. James, Lily, and Noah, now 10, play Uno at the kitchen table, their laughter a balm to her frayed nerves. Nathan sits beside her, his hand resting on hers. "You did it, Claire." "He's gone." She looks at him, her eyes soft but fierce. "We did it, Nathan. I couldn't have faced him without you." He shakes his head, a faint smile breaking through. "You're the strongest person I know. I'm just glad I got to stand by you." The next week, Claire and Nathan host a quiet dinner at home, the table set with candles and takeout from their favorite Thai place in Fremont. The kids chatter about school, oblivious to the weight lifting from their parents' shoulders. Claire watches them, James sneaking extra noodles, Lily giggling, Noah showing off a new drawing, and feels a peace she hasn't known in years. Ethan's shadow, which loomed over her for a decade, is gone, locked away in a cell where his lies can't touch her. She raises her glass, her voice steady, to us, to family, to starting over no matter what. Nathan and the kids clink their glasses, their cheers echoing through the cozy room. Outside, Seattle's lights twinkle the city, a silent partner in their victory. As the days pass, Claire returns to her office, her stride surer, her smile brighter. Clients notice colleagues whisper about her strength. She fields calls from reporters but declines interviews, letting the story speak for itself. At home, she and Nathan plan their wedding, a small ceremony at Gasworks Park with the kids as their witnesses. The triplets, once fragile NICU babies, now run through the backyard, their energy boundless. Claire watches them, her heart full, knowing she's given them not just a home, but a future free of Ethan's poison. The battle is over, and those scars remain. They're proof of her survival, etched into the woman she's become: a mother, a fighter, a woman who turned betrayal into triumph. The Seattle spring blooms, vibrant cherry blossoms dusting the streets like soft pink snow. Claire Bennett stands on a stage at the Seattle Center, her navy blazer sharp, her dark hair catching the light. At 39, she's more than a financial advisor. She's a beacon invited to speak at a women's empowerment summit. The crowd, a sea of eager faces, leans in as she grips the microphone, her voice clear and warm. 10 years ago, I stood in a dark place. She begins, her eyes scanning the room. Betrayed, abandoned, with 3 newborn babies, and no one to turn to. But I learned something. You can rebuild from ashes. You can choose your strength. The audience murmurs, some nodding, others wiping tears. Claire's triplets, James, Lily, and Noah, watch from the front row, their proud smiles lighting her up. Nathan Harper, her husband of a year, sits beside them, his quiet support her anchor. Claire's journey has become a story shared in whispers and headlines across Seattle. Ethan Caldwell's arrest, his conviction for extortion and dodging child support, closed a painful chapter. Now Claire channels that pain into purpose. She pauses, her voice softening. My kids. They're my why. James with his endless questions. Lily, who sings off-key but so loud. Noah, who draws worlds I wish I could visit. They taught me to keep going even when I wanted to give up. The crowd chuckles, then quiets as she grows serious. And Nathan, he showed me love isn't a game. It's showing up every single day. Nathan's eyes glisten and he squeezes Lily's hand. Off stage. Claire steps into Nathan's arms, the kids piling in for a group hug. You were amazing, Mom, James says, his voice cracking with pride. Lily chimes in, Can we get ice cream now? Claire laughs, ruffling Noah's hair. Deal, but only if you share. They head to a Fremont creamery, the kids racing ahead, Seattle's skyline, a glittering promise behind them. At home in Queen Anne, their house hums with warmth. Crayon drawings on the fridge, a half-built Lego castle on the floor. Claire and Nathan tuck the triplets into bed, each kiss a vow to protect their peace. As they sit on the couch, a glass of wine between them, Nathan says, You're changing lives out there, Claire. She smiles, leaning into him. We're changing lives. Together. But Claire's story carries lessons, hard-won truths etched into her core. First, resilience is a choice. When life breaks you, she'd tell anyone, pick up the pieces and build something stronger. I lost everything, my money, my trust, but I found me. Second, true support is priceless. Nathan's steady presence, Sophie's fierce loyalty, they were her lifelines. Cherish the ones who stay, she'd say. They're your family blood or not. Third, facing the past sets you free. Confronting Ethan dragging his lies into the light gave Claire closure. Don't hide from your ghosts, she'd urge. Face them and they lose their power. For me, Claire's story isn't just hers, it's a mirror. I've seen women like her underestimated, written off, yet rising with a fire no one can dim. In a world quick to judge, Claire reminds us to bet on ourselves, to lean on community, to rewrite our endings. Her scars aren't flaws, they're proof she survived. As she walks through Seattle's streets, kids in tow Nathan at her side, Claire carries a quiet truth: no betrayal can define you unless you let it. She looks at the city's lights, her heart steady, and whispers to herself, "This is my story now, and it's only beginning."